Bob Dolan and Earl Anthony back with you from Don Carter's All-Star Lane Southwest, the Fort Worth Regional of the Brunswick World Team Challenge. This is the first game of our semifinal match. Remember, it's a 2-game total pinfall in the Baker system, and Team Brunswick, our number 3 seed, will start things off. This is Scott Southwick in the leadoff position. High scores all week here this week, and Southwick begins with a strike.
And a very unusual strike there, Bob, carrying the 2-pin forward. That's the kind of breaks you need to get the team pumped up. He was a little excited there, got up there and threw it a little harder than he might normally, and it skidded by the head pin, but he got the good break.
Now you see the number 16 on Dan Sale's shirt there, and that's the Baker system that we use here. Sale will bowl in frames 1 and 6. The bowler with the 2-7 on his shirt will bowl in frames 2-7, so on down the line. So there's literally pressure for these bowlers in every frame because they're only able to help each other, help their team 2 times a game.
This is not an easy spare. The 3-6-10, cross lane, he switches balls, goes hard.
And nicely done by Dan Sale. He converts in the first for Columbia 300, our number 2 seed. Now back to Team Brunswick. Tony Franklin, qualifying average of 204.
Nobody hooks it as much as Tony Franklin, it doesn't seem. And he's the, as you see the spare, the 3-6-7-10 there, a very difficult shot. He's going to try to get the ball to the right of the 3-pin, slide it into the 7, and the ball will take out the 6-10. Tony can hook it probably in a skating rink. This young man is so strong. He really gets a wrist rotation into the ball, but now he'll cut that big hook down, throw it pretty hard, pretty straight, and cover the spare.
And Franklin with an open in the second for Team Brunswick.
Here's another look at Tony. Now watch when he gets to the foul line. Watch his wrist rotate around the ball. And this is the strength. You can see the cupped wrist. He'll get down the bottom and cup it again. And there's the big rotation. A lot of power, a lot of strength.
Mark Symes, second frame, Columbia 300. Oh, and the 7 wouldn't go.
Kind of a bad break, but an easy spare here. And another unique style here, just a little different release. You saw Tony Franklin with a big hook, with a heavy roll. And this young man is just kind of the opposite. He throws a little bit of a spinner, and his hand actually goes around the side rather than his wrist rotating. He just turns his hand up over the side of the ball, and that creates a spinner. He'll go cross lane, 7-pin, try to keep it fairly straight. Don't hook it much.
Look out. He got it. Couple of spares to open the game for Columbia 300. And well, Team Brunswick in the third, David Smith.
We're always talking, Bob, about filling frames. Filling frames. In a Baker system, you have to fill the frames. You only get, as you mentioned, 2 chances each game to help your team, and you don't want to make the big mistake that can hurt your team.
Nothing wrong with that from David Smith. Beautiful shot in the third. Third frame for Columbia 300. Dennis Rakauskas. Interesting story here. Last year at the 1993 St. Pete, he went head-to-head with Bob Handley, and now they are teammates. And you were there, Earl. That was one of the highlights of our season last year.
It was one of our more exciting telecasts. There's no question about it. This young man got up for his team, finished out the match with a double and 7 in the 10th frame. Bob Handley then needed 3 strikes to win and got all 3. And this was on a lane condition that was a little more difficult than this one. The scores were a lot lower. Bob Handley had not hit the pocket all day, then got up and got 3 strikes.
And then quickly invited Rakauskas to join them on their team. And here he is in the third frame, first game of our semifinal match.
Well, Rakauskas has taken a lot of kidding since then, too, from Handley and his team. So
I bet he has.
He probably figured if he couldn't beat him, might as well join him.
You betcha. Team Columbia 300, our number 2 seed, is with spares in our first 3 frames. Fourth frame now, Lonnie Waliczek for Team Brunswick. Very talented young bowler, 23 years old.
Getting back to a little bit of the Baker system here, it is a 2 games, as you mentioned, Bob, 2 games total pins, but what's even more interesting, I think, is that the team will bowl a complete game on, like, for example, here on lane 51 for Brunswick, Columbia will bowl a complete game on lane 52, and then they'll switch. And when they switch, it seems like the team that pays the most attention, makes the best adjustments when they cross over, is the team that wins the match.
That's a great point. We talked about it in other events, Earl, that it's so important for the players, even as they're sitting, to watch the other team on that lane so they can see how the ball is reacting when they get over there.
And not only that, Bob, but when I was down there talking to the players before we started the matches here today, the right-hand lane here, Don Carter's lane number 52 actually hooks several boards more than lane 51, so there are going to be some major adjustments to make. The players, if they make a mistake on this lane, the right-hand lane, want to definitely keep the ball wide because it'll hook a lot more.
Dwayne Podgorski for Columbia 300 in the 4th. A league average of 229 for Podgorski. And he'll convert. And that will bring us to the 2 anchormen. Billy Murphy for Team Brunswick, and in a few moments, Bob Handley with Columbia 300 with a 6-pin lead after 4 frames. We're going to see Billy's brother in the finals, Chad Murphy, a member of our #1 seed team. This is Billy.
And that's what team bowling's all about. The anchorman gets up, gets the strike. The guys get off the bench. They meet him coming off the approach. A lot of hand slapping. Everybody's pumped up, and it's a very emotional game when you bowl team competition.
Well, when you're talking about anchormen, this is one of the best there is, Bob Handley. And he answers Billy Murphy. And they're warming it up here after 5 frames. The teams are loosening up, and look at the scores that we enjoyed here all week long. Handley on top with a 246.6, some tremendous scores, and we expect more of the same here tonight in our semifinals and in the finals. We're halfway through our first game of the semifinals. We'll be right back.
This is the all-new 19...
Columbia 300 with a 6-pin lead through 5 frames of our first semifinal match. Remember, there's 2 games in the match, total pinfall. Now we're back at the top. Scott Southwick for Team Brunswick. He started the match with a strike. Looking for 2 in a row. Got it! 2 in a row for Scott Southwick. And his teammates up off the bench. You've told me several times in the past, Earl, that you think emotion is very key in the team game.
Well, there's no question. If you make a mistake, hurt your team, you can see them looking at the floor, and they get down, and it affects how they play. On the other hand, if you throw a strike like that, everybody's pumped up. And it seems to make them better players also. You kind of carry them along. And here's another look at that shot, and here you can see the tremendous rotation. This is what we call the modern-day release, or the urethane release. The ball hits the center arrow, which is the 20 board, clear out to around the 8 board and back to the pocket.
Now let's see what kind of adjustment Tony Franklin makes. Remember, he had an open frame on his first ball in the 2nd frame. Now we're in the 7th. Franklin for Team Brunswick.
Well, Tony hit the out of bounds. There is a little bit of an out of bounds out there, and Tony got the ball out near the edge of the channel, and that's where there's a little oil buildup out there. Watch the ball go down the lane. You'll see it just as it gets near the edge. It'll kind of skid out right about there. See, it doesn't start to roll back. It skids an extra foot or so, and that got it back to the pocket too late, and he leaves a very difficult spare here, but possible to make.
So a pair of opens for Tony Franklin.
Only the 4 off the 4-8-10, and Tony Franklin right now is very depressed, but his team says, hey, Tony, we got another game. Don't give up yet, partner.
Long way to go, and boy, have we seen that before. No lead is too safe in the Baker.
Here again, we'll look at that little bit of a spin shot here. See the rotation of the ball kind of sideways. Doesn't get the big hook, but he gets plenty of power.
Mark Syme in the 7th for Columbia 300.
Watch, here's another look at Mark's release. Watch the hand go around the side like that, and that's what makes the ball spin. He spins it while his thumb is still in it, and that keeps the ball from overly hooking, and what it does, it just kind of spin. Here it is. Here's a good look at it from the side. Great camera work there.
David Smith, 8 frame, Team Brunswick. And they're having trouble on lane 51, the left-hand lane.
Here's a ball that rolls out. Watch the ball start to hook back right there and then straighten out there. Instead of continuing with the hook, it actually loses its energy and straightens out. And that's called a rollout shot. And when that happens, you get that kind of a mess down there. The washout, the 1, 2, 8, 10. You try to slide the 1 into the 10. The ball will take out the 2 and the 8. And he missed it.
Team Brunswick in a hole. They put themselves down in this first match of the semifinals, and Dennis Rakotskis, he's the type of guy you'd want right here, Earl, if you're on Columbia 300 bandwagon. A big ball here after the open, a pair of opens for Team Brunswick. He could do damage here.
Really a good game here. Good fundamentals, great balance, a lot of rotation. Not quite enough to get back. You heard that ball hit the lane. He's throwing it out there well in the air. And the idea, here's we take a look at it. And watch how far out on the lane this ball is. Good 7, 8 feet out there in the air. The reason is the ball, remember I mentioned the right-hand lane here of the pair, 51 and 2. Lane 52 hooks more than 51, so he's trying to delay the hook. The longer the ball's in the air, the less chance it has of hooking too soon or too much.
So that was intentional. I mean, you may see that in a once-a-month bowler and say, oops, that was a bad mistake to throw the ball that far down, but he did that intentionally.
Well, these guys are also talented. They make adjustments that sometimes are not readily, you're not readily able to see, but they'll make speed adjustments, rotation adjustments to the ball. They'll make where they set it down, how far out in the lane, how close. They want it to hook more, they set it down sooner, that kind of thing. And you'll see that happen as they go from lane to lane.
Columbia 300 up by 46, but in the 9th for Team Brunswick, Lonnie Waliczek.
We have a microphone right down there on the lane. That's why you can hear that ball hitting the lane so well. You hear the thumb pop out of the thumb hole when the bowler releases the ball. And, a little bit different sound effect there, but this is what it sounds like if you're down there bowling.
Podgorski for Columbia 300. 9th frame. Well done. And back to the anchormen. Billy Murphy. Team Brunswick again down big, but remember, 2-game total pinfall. Still the lead 46 for Columbia 300.
And here's a chance really to get his team back into it. If he can strike out in the 10th frame, pick up that extra 20 pins in the 10th, anything can happen. Be careful.
Whoa!
That's the out of bounds I talked about. He got the ball out near the edge of the lane and never picked up any friction. The ball skidded. Here's a good look at it. Watch this. This ball gets away from him, gets it way wide of his target area. It almost went in the channel. Another half an inch, that's gone. Look at that ball hang on there.
So that was not intentional.
That was not intentional.
To throw it that far down.
No, no. That one got away from him. He got it way wide of his target, and again, there is a little out of bounds out there. Even though the lane condition is high scoring, you haven't got that much area.
Nice conversion, though, for Murphy.
They're making the left-hand lane look very difficult here, lane 51, and Team Brunswick is. Columbia is watching very closely. Maybe they've got a game plan here. We won't show them anything. How's that?
Well, if it works, why not?
I don't think that's the plan.
Well, we saw such high scores here all week long, so it is a bit of a surprise that Team Brunswick is struggling to this point.
I've never seen defense work in this game.
That's true.
Well, Team Brunswick's kind of go along like they did in match play. They shot such a big qualifying score, averaging over 220 in the 6th game of qualifying. And when they got into the Baker system, they only won 2 of their 9 matches and averaged 205 in the Baker system. So they haven't done well since the qualifying. They've kind of hung on to get into the telecast.
Handley went Brooklyn after a strike on his first ball in the 5th. Now here he is in the 10th. Walks back a little confused.
He's got the baby split here, the 310. Bob made a mistake. He made a bad shot, and he knows that. Now he's thinking, hey, guys, what's going to happen on this spare? He's talking to his teammates. They're saying, hey, it's going to hook or it's not going to hook. They're trying to help him. So Bob will go cross lane at this, probably throw it real hard and straight. Bob's capable of a lot of speed. And all he wants to do is hit that 3-pin on the right-hand side and let the ball deflect into the 10. Like that. And you see his reaction.
Yeah.
A little pat on the heart there. That could have hurt his team a lot. If he'd opened the 10th, that would have taken away the momentum that they built up throughout that first game. And fortunately, not only did he leave a difficult spare, but he picked it up, and now he can carry that momentum into the second game of what seems to be the more difficult lane, lane 51.
Handley, last ball in his first game. And he strikes on it to give Columbia 300 the lead after our first game of our two-game semifinal match. Columbia 300 up by 47 as they switch lanes and head back for the second game. We'll be right back.
Looking for more strikes and more
in the history of this team challenge event, and his team did not make it. Did not make the final field. A 12:40, Team Brunswick. We're watching them right now. The high team game of the week. And Columbia 300 right behind them.
Right, and you look at that. That 12:40 is a 2:48 per man average. That's pretty strong.
Second game, they've switched lanes, remember. And Dan Sale for Columbia 300. Columbia 300 entering this game with a 47-pin lead.
It's kind of interesting. Again, we talked about, you know, the bowling the full game on one lane and then switching to the other. And what happens here is they get to watch the other team, obviously. They watch Brunswick struggle on lane 51. Now Team Columbia over there, no practice ball. Just starting right out and see what happens. And that's tough. It's a real display of talent, the ability to adjust to the difference in the lanes with only 2 chances each game to help your team.
Nice conversion by Sale there.
Tough spare. The 3, 6, 9, 10. Very difficult shot here. Now let's see if Team Brunswick has trouble on the right-hand lane, which tends to hook a lot more than the left lane.
Southwick, one of the few bright spots for Team Brunswick at the first with a pair of strikes. Brooklyn, 3 in a row. He'll take it.
Well, that gives you an idea of what we were talking about there. See how quickly that ball hooked. It halfway down the lane, it went left. He expected the ball to skid more than that, and here's a look at it. Watch this. Right about 30 feet down, right there, it starts gripping the lane, and you see it just turn over and go left to the pipe. He expected more skid, and he actually, if he'd have made a better shot, he probably would have had a split, so he got lucky there.
Mark Sign, Columbia 300, second frame.
That's a good play there, good shot. And his type of release, I've shown that. We've shown his release, the little spin shot, I called it. But what that does is he's more able to keep the ball in play on more varying lane conditions. So that's an advantage when you spin the ball a little bit. The disadvantage with spinning the ball is that if there's a lot of oil out there, it never really grips the lane well enough to strike. You tend to leave weak hits like flat 10s and maybe some pocket splits.
Time converts in the second. Now, Tony Franklin's probably overjoyed that they've switched lanes.
Well, I'm not too sure, because remember, he was hooking it too much on the other lane. Now, what's he going to do on this one that really hooks? Let's see what Tony can do. He's got a ball return that's in his way. He can't quite get over there far enough. And Tony's a big guy anyway. He might just knock that ball return right off the approach.
Remember Franklin with 2 open frames in the first game. There you go.
Look at there. Look at that reaction. See? Nothing.
There you go.
Another look at it, you can see he's sliding almost, his foot's almost in the channel, laying the ball down on the 10 board on the left, getting clear out to about the 7 or 8 board on the right, and back to the pocket. And using a bowling ball that isn't made to hook. So that gives you an idea how much rotation Tony Franklin, big and strong as he is, can put on a bowling ball. And here again, Dennis Rakauskas.
Team Brunswick in the second game, a pair of strikes to open up. Third frame now for Columbia 300. Rakauskas. Oh, he got it.
Oh, my. Now, he had everything in the world there for a minute. The 7-pin split. Finally, the 7 went. Here we take a look at it. Now, watch what happens here. The 7-pin goes. Watch the head pin go to the wall. Comes off the wall, goes all the way across the lane, takes out the 10. How's things going? Got to like that. There's the pin action. The 5 just gets enough for 7. Head pin comes all the way across.
Back now to David Smith. Team Brunswick.
Brunswick's pumped up. They feel they've got a good pop at them on this right-hand lane.
That's 3 in a row here in this second game, and if there are any televised perfect games, that's $25,000
You see the
from
big
the Reno
hook.
Bowling Stadium.
Right, and there's the big hook, and again, the rollout. The ball flattening out.
So things have tightened up here quite a bit in the second game of our semifinal match. Columbia 300 still with a nice lead, up by 36. but Team Brunswick is turning it on. We'll be right back.
At GMC Truck, we built a reputation for truck strengths. A considerable advantage. It also comes in this handy take-home size. Sierra from GMC Truck.
February means action, non-stop action, all month on HSE. The nation's best basketball heats up with courtside magic from the men and women of the Southwest and Big 8 conferences. And the NBA enters its second season as the Rockets continue their quest for glory. And the Mavs take aim on the NBA. February also means tennis from the IBM ATP Tour and the IGA Tennis Classic. Did we say action? Well, we meant excitement, non-stop excitement on HSE.
This was the fourth frame. Lonnie Waliczek for Team Brunswick, looking for 4 in a row for his team, and he got it. We're now in the fifth. The lead is down to 25. Team Brunswick down by 25. Remember, though, they started this game down by 47. 4 in a row. Fifth frame, Billy Murphy. Murphy looking for 5.
Solid 4-pin. A lot of ball speed there, and Billy obviously a little bit upset. Could have got his team within the mark, and this lane 47, hooking more, lane 52, hooking a lot more. Players throwing the ball extremely hard. When I was bowling, if I'd tried to do that, they'd take me to the hospital. There's no question I couldn't throw it that hard.
I've been thinking about taking you there anyway.
Yeah, but you're talking about a mental hospital. I'm talking about physical.
So the string of strikes is stopped for Team Brunswick. After 4 in a row, Murphy a spare in the fifth. Back up top as we come down the stretch. Last time around for all bowlers now. Sixth frame, Dan Sale. And he's got a peck of trouble.
And we've got us a match. This is becoming exciting right now. Here's another look at it. Look at the tremendous rotation. I'm always amazed that they can do this and have any idea where it's going. The ball doesn't quite get back to the pocket, and this is the contemporary split, the new type of split. You don't see this 20 years ago with hard rubber bowling balls. These are urethane splits.
And you're glad of that, aren't you?
I don't know how you make them. Yeah. I don't know how you leave them.
Yeah. A critical open frame in the seventh for Columbia 300. Scott Southwick, 3 for 3.
Last time, remember, he crossed the head pin here, the Brooklyn side, hit the 1-2 pocket instead of the 1-3. Let's see if he makes an adjustment.
Southwick looking for 4 for 4. Oh, and the 10.
Oh, and a great shot, too. That's back-to-back real good shots by this team, Brunswick, and leaving the 4-pin and the anchorman, and, of course, here, the solid 10. Another look at it. Generally, the ball's a little bit behind the head pin. I didn't see much wrong with that one, though, did you, Bob?
He didn't either. He was ready to pump the fist.
All right.
Now he's looking at the 10 pin.
Important thing here is to make the spares. Fill the frames. Keep your team in the match. Hang on.
Look out.
That's a disastrous mistake, and at probably the worst time it could possibly happen. Second time through, which is the last time through for him.
Well, he went hard and straight, but...
in the wrong direction.
Yeah. Now, seventh frame, Columbia 300 with a big break. Marked sign. Sign takes that shot clock right down to 2. And Columbia 300 certainly struggling on this left side lane like
2, the 4, and the 5, and a lot of ways to miss this and just a few to make it. The lane is tricky. It tends to skid and then jump on the back or hook hard. Oh, got it going away.
He found one of the ways to make it. Simon the 7th for Columbia 300. 7th frame, Big Tony Franklin for Team Brunswick. Remember Franklin in our first game, 2 opens over on lane 51. Now that he's on lane 52, a strike on his first ball in the 2nd. And now they need him in the 7th.
Well, almost another one of those urethane splits. He left the 2 and the 4, the last 2 pins to go. If you watch the right-hand corner, you'll see the 6 and the 10 just go out. Right there.
He still looks a little confused, even though he did strike on his first ball over here early. He came back after that one, shaking the head and looking at his teammates for help. A nice conversion for Franklin in the 7th. The lead for Columbia 300 is now 22. We'll bring it home for you, the semifinal match, in just a minute, so please stay with us.
And remember, all bowlers, especially new
300 with the lead, Dwayne Podgorski, 9th frame. Looking to do some damage. Brooklyn. Yeah, there it goes.
There's another look at it. Now, what? This ball was left as soon as he let go of it. The ball's out away from his body, and he's going up and at him, and he pulled it, it crossed in front of him, and you can see the result. Pretty fortunate, the head pin to take out the 5 and the 9, and this is not the time to be sheepish and feel bad about getting lucky. And there's his reaction. He turns to look at his teammates. They don't want it over. They'll take it.
Yeah, I've never seen one give it back.
That's right. Puts a lot of pressure here. Lonnie up in the 9th.
Waliczek, nice ball.
Well, it's coming down to, it seems like Bob Handley. Every time he makes a telecast, he has to get up there and throw a couple of strikes. And now's the time to do it. Bob has to make a good shot here.
Handley, the anchor man here. Billy Murphy will close it out for Team Brunswick. This is why they put Handley in this position.
After he told him not to.
Well, I think they knew what they were talking about.
You're right. But they told him while they were down there practicing before we went on the air, Handley told him, he says, listen, you guys, I don't want to be in a position that needed a double to win this match, so let's get it going. Well, they put him back in that position, and he came through again, and that was the winner right there.
Well, this PBA veteran, 5 PBA national titles to his credit, leaves the 10.
Well, they're going to have their hands full as they go up against the Ebonite team, which just outclassed the field, no question about it, averaging .231 in the Baker system, which is obviously a record for us. And they out-averaged the second team by 21 pins per game in the Baker system, which is phenomenal.
That's unheard of.
Oh,
It really is. Never. Handley leaves the 10 to close the game out for Columbia 300. Anchorman for Team Brunswick, Billy Murphy. It's going to be an interesting championship match, Earl, because both teams, Columbia 300, the winner here, and Ebonite Nitro R, both former winners. They both won on our tour last year. And they're going to hook up in just a few minutes in the championship as we look at the top 10 here in Fort Worth. These teams did a tremendous job this week. All of them over 10,000 total pins. All these top 10. Championship match coming right up. Ebonite Nitro R against Columbia 300. But first, news around the bowling world. Stay with us.
Many have witnessed its awesome power. It is a strategic device of
2 in the Baker system. That's just phenomenal.
This is a great matchup in our championship because both these teams were in Reno last year, and the winner today goes back. And Chad Murphy starts well for Ebonite in the first.
I think if you could describe the...
This is on hand today. Joe Gennaro, good to have you with us.
I like that hat, huh?
Yeah, looks nice. Borrowed it from me before the show.
Oh, wow. There you go.
Steve Klimpkin, great bowler, 23 years old. Second frame for Ebonite Nitro R. a member of the Wichita State National Collegiate Champions. Clifton in the second. Well, here they go. They're picking up right where they left off.
Well, you can see the look in his eye. That young man, some people like to finish on their strength. Other people like to get off to a fast start. I like to finish on my strength. I feel if I can stay close and then get to my strength, I've got the advantage.
Sean Swanson, third frame for Ebonite, looking for 3 in a row for Ebonite. Yeah, 3 in a row.
Well, maybe that's the easy lane. Maybe I'm confused.
Well, they were all easy for this team this week.
Weren't they ever? My.
Ebonite Nitro R against Columbia 300. Also in the crowd today, Eileen Sherman, new inductee to the Texas Bowling Hall of Fame. She's a writer for the Gulf Coast Bowling News. Congratulations, Eileen. Glad to have you with us. We'll be right back. Three strikes in a row to open for Ebonite Nitro R, our number 1 seed. Fourth frame, make it 4 in a row.
Boy, is that ball tracking. Now, let me tell you what, that is power. That ball came back from right field. Here's a good look at it. Watch the ball go well down lane. It gets it really deep into the lane, which is about 55 feet down before it turns over. And that sharp break in the back creates that pin action.
1994 Team USA member, the anchorman for Ebonite Nitro R. Also the 1993 Bowler of the Year, collegiate level, at Wichita State. A tremendous bowler and a great anchorman, and looking for 5 in a row for his team. Barnes looking for 5. No.
Sometimes you can get too much power, and there's a good example of that. And Chris Barnes, very unhappy young man. He thought he made a great shot. You've seen him down on one knee. Here's another look at it. Watch the ball. It grips the lane very hard right there. Cuts through a little high on the head pin, leaving the 4 and the 9. Pocket split. That's not unusual with these reactive resin bowling balls. He'll try to slide the 4 into the 9. Here's another look at the ball cutting through. You can see nothing touch the 4 or the 9. And here's Chris back live, shooting the spare.
And he missed it.
And he missed it.
Open in the 5th for Ebonite Nitro R. It's one of the few mistakes this club has made.
Talented, and he's kind of retired now because he's had some wrist problems. You wouldn't know it by the way he rolls the ball.
Chad Murphy. That's 2 in a row for Murphy, and gets Ebonite back on track. Look at some of the numbers that these 3 finalists put on the board this week, including that 231.8 average in the Baker by our number 1 seed, Ebonite Nitro R. Tremendous. In the match play, Ebonite 8-1. And the team they're playing, Columbia 300, 6-3. We'll be right back with Game 1 of our championship match right after this. You're picked a spare. Syme a strike for Columbia. In the 8th, a strike for Swanson for Ebonite, a spare for Rakoskis, and it's a 14-pin lead after 8 for Ebonite Nitro R, our number 1 seed. Now, 9th frame, Paul Fleming for Ebonite. Fleming with a strike on his first ball here tonight. The 1992 National Amateur Champion, Paul Fleming. 9th frame, got it!
Look at the emotion. Up off the bench. Teams to meet him at the approach. Here's a good look at a great shot. Right over the second arrow. A lot of ball speed. Really heavy roll. No deflection. When the ball hit the pins, it didn't deflect at all. Chris Barnes up here, and this is going to be interesting to see what Chris does. Remember in the 5th frame when his team was on 4 in a row, he left that 4-9. That was high on the head pin. See if he makes an adjustment, gives the ball a little more room here.
I'm betting he does. And he's got some more trouble.
Well, I don't think he made any kind of an adjustment there, Bob. In fact, it looked like, to me, he just tried to increase the speed. You see the real high backswing. Tremendous roll right over the second arrow. Same place he played it in the first frame. Excuse me, when he his first chance to play. Leaving the 6, the 7, and the 10. He'll try to slide the 6 across into the 7, and the ball will take out the 10. Chris is a good spare shooter. There's a good chance he could make this.
Barnes opened in the 5th, trying to avoid it in the 10th. And a pair of opens for the anchorman, Chris Barnes, in this first game of the championship match. And the door is open for Bob Handley.
We're seeing some of the best amateur bowlers in the country and a few professionals tossed in. And we're down to all the marbles right here, Bob. One game.
Now, Ebonite wanted to finish on this lane, on lane 52, and they come over here with a nice lead, up by 27 as we started. Let's see what happens, how that strategy works out. Murphy had 2 strikes on the other lane.
Well, that was a good shot there. A lot of ball speed, and he got the ball well out in front of him, out on the lane, leaving only the 4-pin. Here's a look. Watch, see how far out on the lane he got the ball. And the idea there, obviously, is keep the ball from hooking. So a lot of ball speed, well out on the lane in the air, and good shot. He knows this lane's hooking. He's had a chance to watch these teams bowl for several frames.
And he converts. Chad Murphy for Ebonite Nitro R. Second frame.
That was disaster. That was when the team was making a move. They had a chance to get back into the match, and he could have crossed over. The ideal way to shoot that spare is to hit between the 1 and the 2 instead of going into the pocket area.
An opportunity for Ebonite and for Steve Klimpkin.
Fred Borden, the coach of Team USA, should be very proud of Steve Klimpkin and, of course, Chris Barnes, who are both members of the 1994 Team USA and just got back from the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs, where they went on the tour, and the way they go about their job. Just get up and get it done.
Now this young man, 24 years old, Sean Swanson, 2 strikes in the first game for Ebonite. Here he is on the new lane, looking for 3 in a row. Yep, 3 for Swanson tonight. And that's a 2-bagger for Ebonite in this game.
Well, that's getting up and getting it done. Here's a good look at his style and a release and the roll on the ball. A lot of forward roll here, and what that does is keep the ball on line, and it doesn't react as much when it gets to the dry area, the back of the lane. It won't overhook. So if you can play that, has their hands full, but they're in the driver's seat.
And again, Paul Fleming, and a very impressive young bowler he is.
Yes, he is. Take a look at his eyes when he lines up here. Watch the intensity in his eyes. Look at this. That's concentration.
Collegiate All-American from Nebraska. And another one.
Boy, is he ready.
He has buried all 3 of his shots tonight.
Ebonite, I think, senses victory or smells a little blood, you might say, and they're going after it. Bob Handley to keep his team in the match. Well, here is Chris Barnes, who really hasn't distinguished himself yet in this championship match, but he has 2 opportunities left. Here and, of course, the 10th frame, and he's hoping he won't have to get up in that 10th frame and have that be necessary to get 2 or 3 strikes.
That's right. Remember, he had a pair of opens in the first game, and he's still struggling.
And it's hard to, excuse me, Bob, it's hard to believe that Chris isn't as experienced as he is, even though he's so young, but he's a very knowledgeable player. He knows his game, he knows how to make adjustments, and I'm surprised that he hasn't made better adjustments. After the 2 opens on lane 51, he comes to the lane 52, which hooks more, and he can still throws it through the middle of the head pin. Tough spare. 3-6, 9-10. Ball between the 3 and the 6. Ball should take out the 9. Like that.
And he got it. Barnes with a spare in the 5th for Ebonite. And our #1 seed has a 46-pin lead halfway
throw that much hook and all that kind of stuff. Well, you're going to get that kind of break once in a while. And you're going to get some weird spares, but that particular time he missed by so far, he got the strike.
Now let's see Chad Murphy, 6th frame for Ebonite. Well,
and as
he put it right in the pocket.
So often happens, one guy gets lucky, the other guy gets a bad break. And so these are the kind of things that can turn it around. Here's another look at it. And Chad couldn't have rolled it much better than this, folks. Solid in the pocket, the ring and 10. And generally, I've said this before, it's behind the head pin a little bit, and you see the solid 10. Cross lane, a lot of ball speed, and he switches bowling balls.
What do you think of his game?
Very good game. Their whole team is really solid. Actually, to get this, to have this kind of a skill level, to qualify to bowl on the Brunswick World Team Challenge and make the telecast, you don't have very many weak players on course that are forming Baker system leagues, and people are really enjoying this format. And find out that it's not as easy as it looks.
No. Well, it's so difficult, as we've mentioned, when you only are filling 2 frames per game. It is so tough to make those adjustments. Klimpkin. Right there.
Well, that again, that urethane, it just doesn't bounce. The ball doesn't deflect. It cuts through the pins, and there's the solid 9. We get another look at it, and you can see the heavy rotation right there. The ball picks up the roll, turns in. Watch the ball. It doesn't deflect. It actually goes over the 8th pin spot. And I keep saying the ball has to hit the 5 and the 9. Well, that was about 12 inches from hitting the 9 pin. Spares. Ebonite just wants to fill frames. If they fill frames, this is going to be their match.
They're going to Reno. And here's one in the 7th for Clemson.
You know, it's kind of interesting also, Bob, that not only are there proprietors around the country forming Baker leagues, but they're running qualifiers in their centers for, and it's a great idea.
I think that is a great idea.
And the winning team or the winning couple of teams, if the entries are high enough, get into this particular event. And again, just trying to stay clean here.
Well, we talked about it before the match, Earl. Could they close it out? They dominated all week here in Fort Worth. The question was, could they close it out and win it tonight? Win the one match tonight? And apparently they are well on their way.
Well, they've got a team that's really full of, you know,
Just mentioned Swanson perfect today, 4 for 4. Fleming, 3 for 3. And this is his last ball. You're right, they are loaded. This lineup is just loaded, and they're all young. 22, 23, 24, 25, 23.
And the one with the most notoriety probably is Chris Barnes, and he's the one that struggled the most.
That's right, that's right. Fleming a perfect 4 for 4 today. And after seeing tonight what you saw this week in Fort Worth, how are they going to compare to those other 7?
They won't take a backseat to anyone, and that includes Dick Weber's team. Dick Weber, the grand old man of bowling, still going strong. His team's going to be there. Of course, Ernie Schlegel's team, which won our last tournament. A lot of very strong teams, very fine, talented players, some of them professional, some amateur, but this team will measure up with the best of them, I feel, Bob.
Now, Barnes and Klemkin were on the team last year, this Ebonite team last year that won the Baltimore Regional and then went to compete in Reno. But the other 3, Murphy, Swanson, and Fleming, were not members of that team, so they will be going to Reno for the first time. Now Barnes is turning it on.
Well, see, this gives him an opportunity when it's all over to come back and tell his teams, if it wouldn't be for me, you guys wouldn't have won this thing. I got those 3 strikes in the 10th.
Walk back and say, hey, I struck out. We're going to Reno.
Yeah. Now his teammates are giving him a little bit of a little jab down there. That's why he was smiling earlier. They're talking to him. You can see him smiling there. Nothing better than team competition.
There you go. Barnes wraps it up with 3 in a row, and Ebonite just as impressive here in the finals as they were all week long, Earl. Again, they set a record total score here this week in Fort Worth, and picked up right where they left off with a convincing victory over a talented Columbia 300 team, but they just ran into more than they can handle tonight.
I agree, Bob, and there's no question that this Ebonite team is probably as good as any we've ever seen. And, of course, the coaching of Fred Borden and people of that quality, 2 members of Team USA out there, you won't see any better bowling than this. And the crowd was very pleased, and they were really into the matches.
A 101-pin victory for Ebonite Nitro R, 244-172 in that second game. That's the biggest margin in our lanes. Kathy, hi.
Yes, Steve, we'd like to present you with your championship rings and very nice bowling as a team. And glad to see you're #1, and please be #1 in Reno. I would also like to thank all our Fort Worth ABC directors for a very fine job, and also all the staff that helped us and make this success. Thank you.
You bet. You deserve that. You did a great job here all week long. Now let's bring in Ronnie Rhodes representing Lynn Shoes. Hi, Ronnie.